So, good morning or good night, depending on where you are in the world, and welcome to another interview with the Shield Dude on a Couch. I'm your host, Hector, and today I'm joined by Julian. He sings for the band Common Sage. They're a band from Brooklyn, New York, and they play post-hardcore with some emo. That's what it says on the label. So, Julian, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. So I listened to the album. The album already came out November, I think 22nd. So it's called Closer to. So it's a pretty cool record. It reminded me a little bit of a band called Brand New that I used to love, but obviously a lot of stuff happened, and they're no longer releasing music. So Julian, for people that don't know the band, give us a brief history of the band, man.
Um, a brief history is
Yeah.
that uh it's something I started like back when I was a teenager, and it's changed names and it's changed styles since then. And I would say that this current um this current form of Common Sage has been around since like 2018, 2019. But to get even more specific, like the group, like the guys that are in the band right now and the music that we're making, we've all been doing it since like even later than that. So like 2020, 22 probably. 2020, yeah, 2022 is like when the current band started doing what we're doing, if that makes sense.
Like the current iteration of the band.
Current iteration is I couldn't think of the word. That's the perfect word. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, it's early, man, so that happens sometimes.
I agree with you, but also it's not bad, or I shouldn't. There's no excuse for me.
Okay. So the band, has a sound that reminds me a lot of like bands that I mentioned. So closer to every song has something different, but I felt like there was like a running theme through the record, which I couldn't put my finger on it. Like, so for you, like, I'm guessing you write most of the lyrics for the record. Like, is there like a constant theme that goes in this new album?
I would say definitely. And that was what I was trying to go for. Yes. So if that came across, then that's perfect. I would say there's like a bunch of different things going on. Um, the main, I guess, I guess the main theme of it is like just like looking to feel like closer to like something, and like whatever that is like up to whoever's listening. It's up for interpretation, you know?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Very close to interpretation. Like the music video for Vehicles was quite interesting because the music video you're like being interrogated. Tell me a little bit about that video because I found that was a pretty cool looking video.
Thank you. I agree. I love that video. My friend Rich directed it, and his wife Kelsey like produced it, and I would say like slightly co-directed. But Rich used to be in this band called Gatherers, if you've ever heard of them. They're
Yeah, I
really
think I think
good.
I've heard of them. Yes.
Yeah, super sick, super good band. Yeah, I'm kind of being like experimented on in that video, I would say. Not necessarily interrogated. Um Same, yeah, when I asked Rich to make the video, I was like, "Do you want to know what the song is about or what the album is about or like blah 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 blah?" And he was like, "I don't want to know what anything is about. I just want to listen to it over and over again, like take away what I'm gonna take away from it, get like a feel for it, like feel out what I'm like visuals that I'm seeing." And he just came up with that like very wild video, you know?
Yeah, because yeah, you're being experimented on. So I thought it was interesting. But what's the background on vehicles, like lyrically?
lyrically. I don't. I wrote it. I was watching a documentary on Heaven's Gate, the Heaven's Gate cult. Do you know
Oh,
the
yes, I
thing?
know. Yeah, I know it.
So like it was about like it was specifically focusing on like the members of it and how they all joined or like what their background was and all of that. And it was obviously like something I never thought about. Or like I did, but like I didn't have like a good idea of like obviously who each person was or like what they did. And they were all just like very normal people, like people that were like married or people that were in college. And like most of them like were like quote unquote like educated like people, like they were like super normal people. Like whenever I thought of a cult and people who would join a cult, like I guess like subconsciously I was always like, oh, I guess they're like kind of like idiots or like easily manipulated or like blah 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 blah. And like I think to an extent like these people became, manipulated, but like I don't think it's like it wasn't they're not like idiots. They're not stupid people. Like I found out that they were all just people, or it came across to me that they were all just people that were like looking for something more meaningful out of life. Like they literally wanted to know like what is the meaning of life, and like some of them weren't happy with the reality of it, which is like, there isn't a meaning, or like we're all gonna die, or like, you know, you live your life and you need to like have a job and you have to go to that job every day to pay for your bills, and then like ultimately you die, right? So like all of these people like uh gravitated or like latched on to the idea of like this like like grand afterlife thing. It's like similar to like I guess Christianity and like saying, oh, like you're gonna go to heaven when you die. Like, you know, don't be upset about like this or that because like in the end, like there's heaven. And like in this one, it's like in the end there's like this UFO where it's like everybody's or whatever, it's a similar thing, but
Yeah.
it was just presented in a different way. And I don't know, it just I took to that, I guess. So that's what that song is basically about. And like they used to call themselves their bodies vehicles. So I named the song Vehicles because that was just what was on my mind as I was writing
Oh.
that song.
Instead of vessels, they said vehicles. Yeah, it's interesting. And when I think of like the that Heaven's Gate, I don't know why. It sounds like the plot to the movie Cocoon, which which
I don't
is like an 80s movies of old people who are promised to be taken to a planet where they will never die.
want that's exactly what it is. I'm sure that
That's
those
exactly the plot of the movie.
dude,
So
I'm sure what was their name? I think their name was like T and Da. It was like Do Re Mi Fa Sol La Ti or T and Do. It was part of that. That was their names, the two main people. But I'm sure they watched that movie and came up with that
and
idea.
came up with that idea. Yeah, it's sad, but because like the themes of the record is closer to, so they were trying to be closer to something. And yeah, I think that's why I knew that there was like a common theme in the record. So I want to talk about the album cover, uh, because I don't know if that's someone's grandma, and it looks like maybe she's a spirit.
Um, I don't know what it is either, for what it's worth. I have a friend, he made our last album cover, which is like an image of like a little person in a raincoat floating over like
Yeah.
the ocean. And his name's Pablo Chaco. I believe he lives in Mexico. I can't quite remember where exactly he lives, but he made that image and I found him through like Instagram. And when I found him and when I found that image, he had another image on his Instagram, he has like obviously is like an artist page. So he had all of a bunch of photos he's done. And one of them was like this old, it was black and white. It looked like this like man, it looked like a photo taken from like the 50s or like the 40s or something. And it was like this man sitting in a chair and the contrast was like extremely high. So it was like very black and very white. And the light on him was blending in with like the background or something, like kind of like the light behind me, kind of like the light on the image. But like I said, the contrast was so high, it kind of looked like he was like nuclear almost, like he was like exploding or he's like about to explode, like he's turning nuclear. So I really loved that image when I first saw it. And when we were, finishing this record or working on this record, that was the first thing I thought of. And I asked him for that image or if we could use that image. And he didn't have the original image anymore and offered to recreate it. So he recreated this one, which is a lot less nuclear looking. Like it looks like it reminds me of just like it looks like something, like you just said, is like kind of coming out of her or like
Yeah.
something is like radiating out of her. So like it's a similar like vibe. It's like obviously a similar, I don't know what you would call it, theme to the original image, but it's more subdued kind of. And I feel like, at least for me, over time, over looking at it for so long, it's like kind of connected itself to the album and like what the songs are about and stuff more than what the original image could have meant to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I totally know what you mean. But yeah, because it looks like she's like her soul is leaving her body,
Yeah, totally.
type of like a deal. So yeah, it I think it can be interpreted in different ways, or you could just say it's just like the light coming out of her, or maybe she's a cocoon. I don't know. I don't know,
Yeah.
but yeah, it looks cool, and you chose to have the image without the name of the album or the band, just the image.
Yeah. I really, I mean, yeah, I love this is not gonna sound so corny. I love art. I love photos. I feel like when there's a really good photo, like you don't need to muck it up with, your logo or like the name of an album. I think like obviously a lot of times it you can like a really great image can you can throw your name on top of it, obviously for sure. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like I get more out of it from not from what it is.
Yeah, no, totally understandable. And I was in your Bandcamp, and I see that you had like some cassettes, but they're all sold out.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, you're sold out. So people, if you didn't buy it, you can get it. But what physical copies do you still have of the record?
We have vinyl. We have so many vinyl. Yeah, you can get it. I guess maybe you can't get it through a Bandcamp, but you could get it through like our website. You could get it through equalvisionrecords.com's website, or that's our label. And I'm sure it's in other places in the world if you just looked it up. I'm sure other stores have it.
But do not say you have many. Say you have limited.
They, they are limited.
That's
It,
the because if you say you have many, people will be like, ah, he has many. But if you say you have limited, people will
it
be, no,
just
you need to
it
get
just
it. It's
came
limited.
out.
Yeah, it just came
Just
out.
give it some time and it'll get even more limited. But right now, yeah, it's limited. It's definitely limited at the
Yeah.
moment.
So what another of the I think of the singles that I found interesting was 47. Tell me a little bit about the background on that one.
Um, hmm. It started as like a screamo song, actually.
Hmm.
Uh, I had this idea a long time ago to make a little like hardcore EP, like heavier. Not necessarily hardcore, like just heavier songs, like 4 or 5 songs of like screamo, hardcore type stuff. That me and the old drummer made some demos for them, but it was really difficult. He was like out in California. He was like sending me back very rough drums over very rough guitars I just recorded like on my iPhone. So pretty weird. There's no like bass player at the moment. There is no second guitar necessarily at the moment, I don't believe. And it was just like difficult to do and obviously did not work out ultimately. But at some point, I think I just came back to that one song, just like the guitar, specifically the riff, I guess. Um, and I thought it was cool. Um, I was like listening to like that band State Faults and like Me Without You specifically when I was writing that. So I was just particularly into that riff. And I don't know, just in context with the other songs, I thought it would be a little, it wouldn't fit quite as well if it stayed heavy, like if it was like a screaming type of song. And it just became, the same thing but sung instead. And in my opinion, like it's kind of like the pop song of the album now. It's like the opposite of like the heaviest song on the album or what it could have been. Uh, and yeah, same thing. Rich and Kelsey helped make that video. It was all done in the same day, same as the Vehicles video. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, there's some cool stuff, but there's a little bit more harder songs. I think Witness is a good album starter, and you have Until I'm Gone, which is more of like that, like slower type of song. So when you're writing lyrics for you, like, what's your process for lyric writing?
Um, it's like a strenuous, horrible process. I hate writing lyrics so much. Ultimately, I think what happens is I'll just like I'll write down anything. I'll just start writing down sentences and then I'll like I won't look at it for like a few days and then I'll come back to it. And usually it's I have the music is all done first, so I'm just like thinking of like a melody for vocals, and then once I have a vocal melody, I'll be like, okay, how many syllables does like this bar need? And then like, okay, 5. So like, what words should I write? I don't know, a random 5 words, and then as many random ones as I can get out that, before I'm over it. And then, like I said, I'll come back to it. I'll like maybe pick one line out of the few that I wrote because I would just won't like the other ones. And then maybe I'll like just, ri branch off from there. Or I'll be like, okay, what was I thinking about? Or what was I trying to say? Or like what am I ultimately gonna say in this song? Which I think comes after writing a bunch of random words. I'll figure out like something that I'm like something like hidden or whatever that I was like
Okay.
trying to say, you know? And that's mostly how it gets done. There's like very few times where like I'm like laser focused and I'll know exactly what I'm trying to say and it'll be a bit easier, but most of the time it's random things that I'm picking and choosing and cutting and pasting around.
Has there been any time like you wrote a song, you finish it, and you're like, what the hell is this song about? After you finish
Uh,
it.
yeah, definitely. I'll be like, what was I saying here? But just like everything else in the world, like even after I do something like that and I'm just like, what the hell was I doing? I'll like put meaning to it in some way. I'll be like, oh well, maybe I could have meant this and maybe this meant this, and then it becomes, well, yeah, I did mean this, you know. So yes, definitely, but also yeah, it just everything just always takes on a different meaning eventually, you know.
Yeah. Do you also play guitar in the band, or like is any instrument that you use for
Yeah,
the
I
cre
play I'm the rhythm guitarist.
Yeah, you play the guitar as well. So yeah, you have double duty there.
Yeah.
So growing up for you, like because I hear different influences on your band, like which bands got you into music?
Um, I've all my favorite bands have always been, and they still are, like Blink 182 was like middle school, like first thing I became obsessed with. Later on, like the Beatles, um, like honestly, I always like Fall Out Boy was a big thing for me for a second, and like just that whole scene of music, but even more so than like that, Modest Mouse, Cap and Jazz, the Blood Brothers were a big deal for me. Neutral Milk Hotel, just like those bands were a really, really big deal for me, and really changed the way I was like thinking about music and like wanting to write music. Yeah, back then and still. Yeah.
So the recording process for Closer to, where do you guys worked on this?
We went to this place called the Barbershop in New Jersey, and it is this dude Brett Romness's. It's not his studio, it's where he works out of, but we really wanted to work with Brett, and he's in two bands. He's in or three bands. He's in Crime and Stereo, uh I Am the Avalanche, and The Movie Life, which are all really great bands. He's the drummer in all of those bands, but he's produced like every Hot Mulligan record. Um he used to work with Mike Sapone on a lot of records he worked on, which was like Oso Oso, like Brand New, like you mentioned before, like the Front Bottoms. Uh he worked on like Taking Back Sunday records. And yeah, so and even more recent than that, like Brett's like own personal records, he just works with like Anxious or like Just Friends or like just a million bands. He's always working with bands, and yeah, we just really wanted to work with him. So he works out of, like I said, this place out in New Jersey, which is like inside of an old church, which is like on like a lake basically. Like you walk outside and there's a huge lake. It was super cool. It's like basically out in the middle of the woods.
So
Um,
you're forced to work.
I wouldn't say it was like the coolest, chillest environment you could like imagine. You know, like we worked like 10-hour days or like longer maybe. Like like we woke up, got coffee or like people got breakfast, and then we came back and then we just like did went until like everybody was tired, like 1 a.m., 3 a.m. even. Like but it was all like it was always just very relaxed. It was super fun. There was always like some courtesy of me. There was always like a horror movie on in the back or something, like very fun, like very good. Everybody was in a really good mood and the spirits were like always up, like yeah. But we were definitely doing it, like, we were like in
How long was the process for the recording of Closer to?
it. Brett wanted us to come in for like a month, just like work on it for a month. That's how he usually works with everyone. He just like schedules a month, and if you finish earlier, then great. But if not, like perfect. You just have like day after day after day to do it.
Yeah.
So
But you're
just
not staying there physically, right?
you stay, yeah, yeah, yeah. He has like, yeah,
Okay, that's very
yeah,
90s. Like bands in the 90s did that. Like they would stay, like the Red Hot Chili Peppers, they would rent a mansion or stuff like that, and they
yeah.
would live there. I think Incubus did that for Morning View too. Like they rented some and they worked there and lived there. So you were doing that, and you were like 30 a month there to get the vibe. So do you think like being there, staying there, like influenced the mood of the record?
I think, well, what I was gonna say is we weren't able to do the full month because of like work
Oh,
schedule
okay.
stuff. Yeah, we were there for like weeks, like 1 week at a time. So like we'd stay there for a week, come back, people would work for whatever. The album took like 2 years. Like we were probably, it probably took us about 4 to 5 weeks altogether, but it took like 2 years just because of like Brett's schedule and like everybody's schedule. And like sometimes things got canceled and like sometimes like somebody wasn't able to come or whatever. But I think even being there for like a week at a time, like day after day,
Hmm.
I think like yeah, I just think it all like lended itself to like just being in it, you know, you're like this is all we're doing, like this is the focus, like there's nothing else going on unless like little breaks to like make jokes or like talk about whatever, but like, you know, which is all a part of it. Like, yes, I think it definitely kind of like focused. I mean, at least me. I'm sure it focused everyone.
So it was like 4 weeks, just not a whole month, just uh, pushed apart. So maybe that influences maybe some of the different sounds because like you worked on something, then you work on other songs, you are feeling something else, and would give the album like the personality. Like uh, th- I know that I've asked this question to some artists like about like favorite track, and sometimes it's hard. But do you have like maybe the track that you most identify with?
Um, the track I like to play the most and the song that I like, I guess my favorite track is Shiver. I just like really like the way it came out. Um, it was like a song I'd worked on like for so long. Like I had that riff in my head for like forever. And it just like it's one of those moments where it's just exactly what you picture, which I think are rare. Like I think it's hard for something to come out exactly how you imagine it, but that song did. And I like playing it live. I like everything about it. Yeah, that would be my favorite track, but like genuinely just like it's hard to pick a song otherwise. The flow of the album is really nice in my opinion, and I'm just like really stoked on how like everything came out, and I'm stoked on like how everything kind of like melds into each other in a way. And yeah, I don't know.
I
Yeah.
think it has a good it has a good flow to it, you know,
Yeah.
because if an album has like a bad flow or clunky, I don't know, it gets me out of the record, but it has a good flow. Sometimes the a song will go into the other one, so it had that like continuous flow, but also distinctions from song to song. So the album is already out. I'll post the link for people who want to get the limited vinyls. And so, what's next for Common Sage now? What have you going on this new year?
um we're playing a show in Long Island this month, next week probably, with this band Zeta from Venezuela that we really love. I really love them. They're on a little tour, but more than that, bigger than that, we're going on like a semi-full US tour in March with this band Stolas and this band Mundo and this band slash dude Andres, who are all really great. And it's like starting out in California, and we're just like making our way down south back over to New York. It's gonna be like I think like 11 shows. Yeah. So that's very cool. That's happening.
Uh, do you have your essential stuff for the road ready?
Yeah, it's always right. It's like a deodorant and like a phone charger in my backpack. That's the essentials.
Yes, and some clean underwear.
Definitely, yeah, some clean, like one or two pairs of pants, some shirts, yeah, but those are ready.
Should be fun. And is it too soon yet, or are you thinking of new music right now?
Yeah, I mean, there's like, yes. I'm always thinking of new music. It's a pretty slow process for me because like it's kind of like the lyric thing. I'll just do something and then I'll like I'll walk away from it for a long time and come back to it. And yeah, new music, nothing like substantial. Like we're not like going into the studio next week or anything, but like
It's been a month and a half
yeah.
since you released the album, so yeah, there's you need to promote the new one. Uh, so yeah, so cool, man. So before I let you go, anything that you like to say to the Common Sage fans or people that will be watching this here interview?
Um, Thank you to everyone who is listening or has listened. Um, as mentioned a million times, we have a new album out. It's called Closer To. You can listen to it everywhere. And we're on Instagram and Twitter and all that stuff. And you could check us out there and maybe see us live somewhere soon. And that's, yeah,
Awesome.
that'd be it.
Yeah. So Couchers, you heard it here, Common Sage album Closer to. It's out everywhere. If you want the cassette, you're screwed. They're gone, but you can get the vinyl. So until next time, this is Hector, the shield dude on a couch, and I'll see you all right here on the couch. Thank you and goodbye.